Hello, everyone. I'm Casper Rigsby with Atheist Republic, and I'm here today interviewing Vance Major. Vance is somewhat well known for a screenshot that was taken of a conversation between him and his mom over, over him being an atheist, and basically she presented the argument that she was a terrible mother and she failed as a mother because he's an atheist, and it led to some back and forth between them. The screenshot itself went viral and has been talked about all throughout the atheist community, kind of taking Vance by surprise a little bit there. Um, so I wanted to talk to Vance today about not so much that actual interaction, but what that interaction was about, which is as Vance tried to make the point in that conversation that he is more than just an atheist, and and she shouldn't judge him by that one thing. So I'll let Vance start off and give you guys a little insight into what's going on with him.
Hey guys. Well, first off, I just want to say thanks for having me on. Yeah, the post, it certainly took a life of its own. My mom had always been kind of a overly religious, overprotective kind of person. Sweet woman for the most part, but just kind of deluded in what she thought. Everything was always King James Bible this, church that. Whenever you needed, lunch money for, something, school related, or, hey, I need money for a church act, or for school activity or something, it was always, we don't have money for that. But she was always the first to give to the church and whatnot. So it was always, everything church related, church came first. I studied about 5 years to be a pastor. I was very focused on that. Did a lot of the research. When I started asking questions to the pastor, to my mom, to the people who were supposed to be leaders of the church, I started getting answers that weren't quite satisfactory to me. And so I started researching the stuff myself. And I didn't look where they told me to look, which was read your Bible or pray more. I actually started looking into the history of stuff, and not from a doctrine perspective, but more from a historical perspective. And this was kind of in the early days of the internet. And so information was more than just going down to your public library and looking into a book. It was more like researching stuff online. And so you had this vast knowledge of information to where you could actually look at, where they were getting their information from. And when you started looking at stuff, you started seeing that their resources was kind of delving more back into kind of the same stuff. So when you started eliminating where they were getting their sources from, you started seeing that a lot of the stuff was kind of BS. And so, you know, given the fact that I was studying to be a pastor and asking all these questions, I started doing kind of a checklist of things that, you know, when I started asking the question of why do I believe what I believe, I just couldn't realistically believe that anymore. And so, for my mom, as much as I love her, and I do love her, some people out there are like, oh, let's troll this woman. She's such an evil person. She's not evil. She's just misguided. And people need to realize that, religious people are just misguided. But I would never take her faith from her. It's just I can't share that faith. Having done the research with an open mind, it's just I can't share that. And you know, this conversation with her, she tends to be the type of person that out of the blue, she'll ask a question. Hey, do you remember the song that Pastor used to sing in Sunday school? Well, this is out of the blue. No, I don't. Or she'll jump in the middle of, she'll send you a text in the middle of a conversation. Hey, do you remember the third? Do you remember what color crayon it was that I scribbled with? Well, what are you talking about? Like you really can't follow the logic of of her sometimes. And again, love the woman to death, but it's just you kind of follow her and you're like, well, what, and so you kind of have to jump with her sometimes. And so when I got this message from her where she's like, I have failed as a mother, I'm just sitting there going, oh shit. I came off of a 13-hour shift, and I work 6 days a week, 13-hour shifts. And I work for a meatpacking plant. And so I had come off this shift, and I wasn't in the mood to hear it. Um, and I love conversation. I love discussing things with people, but I wasn't in the mood to hear it. And so, I first kind of deflect it because I believe with, negativity or with people that kind of drag you down, you just kind of arm's length, let them vent or whatever, and just kind of let it roll off. But when she started kind of being toxic, it was just like, I've had enough of this. I'm not a bitter or angry person, but you can't talk to people like that and expect them to be positive and expect them to stay in your life. So it's just enough's enough. And so, because I do have a very large online following, because I do a lot of networking online, I do a lot of fan films. I posted up there because, like I put in the caption, I have no words for this. I was kind of, I was at a loss for words. I didn't know what to do, and I figured, at the time, I think I had like 4,200 friends, and I was like, certainly somebody out there knows what I'm going through. Um, and despite what some people would say when they say, "Oh, it's just Facebook," they're not real people. In today's social media, these people online are very real. And I've met some people online that are as real to me as the people that I work with, and it's been really, a strength to me. And then, people who have seen the post have messaged me and said, "Man, this is really a strength to me because I know now that I'm not alone." And when this thing went viral, which is something I never expected, uh, I've gotten hundreds of messages that have said the same thing, where this has really encouraged me because I see that I'm not alone. And honestly, that's the best feeling in the world. You know, um, and again, it's one of those things where it's like I hate labels, and I wish people wouldn't. I wish we could just be people instead of, oh, I'm a Christian, or I'm an atheist, or I'm a Muslim, or I'm a. I wish we could just be people and be like, yeah, this is what I think, but whatever. Because it's like I love Star Trek, but I know there are people out there who live and die by Star Wars, and I never disown my friends because they like Star Wars. I wish religion could just be the same way, where my mom could be like, "Hey, I believe there's a God," and me, I'd be like, "Mom, I don't," because there's no proof. But hey, that's awesome that you do. And that's that. But she can't get past that, and that's on her. So.
Yeah, I'm a sci-fi pluralist. I enjoy both Star Trek and Star Wars, so I'm one of those odd ones.
Well, say that's
But yeah,
awesome.
yeah, that's one of those that's one of those odd points that a lot of people don't get is how a lot of us go through this. A lot of us lose family and friends over just stating the outright fact that we can't believe this crap that you believe. We can't, And a lot of us have really tried. We've put a lot of effort into trying to come to an understanding of it and believe in it and say, oh well, I need to believe this. I need to feel this connection or whatever. And that's one of the things I like to talk about a lot is that I never felt a connection with God, and so that's one of the things that made me say, well, maybe there is no God. Maybe this is some crap, and maybe I do need to look into it because I don't feel it the way a lot of other people do.
Well, the thing about it
But yeah,
is,
we
the,
yeah,
the,
go ahead.
the thing about it is, there was a time, my best friend is a Christian. We're making a film called Starship Melbourne next year, uh, and he's diehard Christian. Honestly, one of the most respectable people I know. Religion seldom comes up, but honestly, we talk about stuff that have nothing to do with what we personally believe, and it's just I don't understand why this is such an issue for some people. Um, my Facebook, I post atheist stuff on it, because I'm very open about what I believe. But I welcome all kinds of discussion. The way I see it is, it's no different than when I post, Star Trek stuff or Batman stuff. Hey, let's talk about it. As long as there's no personal attacks, let's talk about it because I love discussion, other points of views. But again, it's when people sit there and they get butt hurt, because I don't believe in their imaginary friend. Screw that. It's just I don't understand this type of mentality, and it would be a lot easier for me to lie to myself or to try to lie to myself and lie to other people. But it's me being an honest person and saying, hey, I'm not shunning you for your belief, but I have to be honest with myself and say, hey, I've done the research. It's there. If you can present something to me that I can't find, I didn't get to be an atheist by ignoring other people's points of views. So present something to me. If you can, I'm more than happy to look at the evidence. But again, it's that type of mentality. Let's look at the evidence. Personal personal experience is not evidence. Let's look at the facts. And that's what I did. And I've talked with my mom before about, historical facts. And the equivalent of, what she gave me was, fingers in the ears, la, 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 and don't take my King James Bible from me. It's like, well, first off, do you even know how you got that? Because I can guarantee you, historically, you don't know what went into it, who made it. You know, let's talk about that. But you won't. You'll sit there and you'll continue to live ignorantly. And it's as much as you love the people, you can only be around those people so long before you're like, I'm done. Especially when they sit there and they shun you themselves. It's like, you can't do that. Toxic people are just that toxic. Family does not excuse that. And I know there's some people out there again who are like, oh, let's troll this person. I'll sit there and I'll defend her every step of the way, just like my religious friends. I'll defend their faith, but I just don't share it. You can't lower yourself to what you don't like just because you don't agree with it. You have to say, this is who I am, and I'm not going to change that. And when I had to turn my back on my mom, it was just because, hey, I can't take abuse just because you're my mom. So,
So do you feel like that's one of the big things that we have to overcome as atheists in trying to create dialogue is how we can approach it? Because like you said, a lot of them don't want to hear facts. They don't want to hear about history. They don't want to hear about how these things came about. So how do you think we can find a way to interact on a some common ground? I guess.
well, the thing about it is, again, this is just my personal opinion. There are people out there who are hardcore. No, we've got to choke them with the truth. People are going to believe what they want. People are going to listen to what they want. You can't make them believe anything that they're not going to believe. Just like with the um, just like with my post that's out there, some people say, oh, it's a fake post. He made it up, or, these people aren't real. I can't sit there and convince every single person that, no, this was an actual conversation. My wife knows the truth. My friends know the truth. People who've met my mom know the truth. It is what it is. And it's just like with us as atheists, we know the truth. We can't sit there and convince people who don't want to hear the truth, hey, this is legit. People who just don't want to hear, they're not going to hear. Um, Ironically enough, you're going to hear that same kind of argument in the church. They don't want to hear it and they're not going to hear it. So it's just one of those things where it's like, all you can do is just sit there, be who you are, set the example, and again, be who you are, and not let them destroy your character, because character is what you do when no one else is around. So don't let them destroy who you are. Eventually, enough people are going to take notice and say, God, there's something about that guy. I want to be like him. Or, man, I'm taking notice, and I'm looking at what I've got, and I'm not seeing much here. So let me look and check into what he's talking about, and then they're going to follow you. So again, just let the truth speak for itself, and eventually people are going to be like, there's nothing much to this Bible thing. It's today's religions are tomorrow's ancient myths.
Yeah, one of the things that really bothered me about the conversation with your mom and after getting to know you a little bit is you're not actually an adversarial atheist or even really a hardcore anti-theist like myself. So it's one of those things where she's drawing on one aspect of who you are and making a determination about you from that one aspect of who you are. And I think that's a pretty unfair perspective for her to take, and it would be a unfair perspective for any one of us to take towards religious people as well.
Well,
Um,
see that's one of those things where it's like, when because I've had some people that look at my Facebook, and they'll see those posts, that I post of atheist stuff, and they'll take that one aspect and they'll just run with it. And that's a perfect example of anything in an extreme that's bad. and that I don't care what extreme you are, too much of one thing it just puts a bad taste in your mouth. And I don't know if that's what she was focusing on, and then that just left her just so distraught, where it's like, there's more to me than just, hey, I don't believe in God. Hey, I love Batman, I love Star Trek, I help my friends out who are struggling with substance abuse, who do have suicidal tendencies. I work 60 to 72 hours a week just to help pay bills. I help put my wife through school. It's like there's more to me than just, I don't believe in God. I'm not sitting here fucking plotting on people. Pardon me, I didn't mean to swear. Um, you know,
You're fine. We swear all the time on these.
oh, okay,
I'm the worst. I'm the world's worst about it.
right on, man. But it's like, that's one thing where it's like anything in an extreme is just not a good thing. And it's like, you know, yeah, I'm not very confrontational. I can be, but that's anybody. But it's like, you shouldn't just take that one aspect and just run with it. Hey, you just step back and be like, you know what? I see what he's trying to say. You know what? I'm not a bad mother. You're not. And has she made mistakes? Yes, she made a mistake. She's made a lot of mistakes. But point to me someone who hasn't. Hell, I've made mistakes. So it is what it is. So whatever.
Yeah, I know in the phone call that we had, and we talked a good bit in that phone call, which was a wonderful experience to get to know you pretty good before we got into doing this, and we've been chatting a little bit back and forth. But I know in that phone call we discussed like your past and growing up, and that you moved around a lot, and had a bit of a different experience here, there, and everywhere. Um, so it wasn't heavily religious growing up, and it seems like your mother has taken on a more heavily religious tone. Later in your life, well, more so later in your life. Was that detrimental to you as a former Christian? Was that one of the things that sort of pushed you away? Was her sort of descent into the rabbit hole, so to speak?
Well, the thing about it, like I wasn't a Christian until I got saved when I was 13. Bible Baptist Church in Washington. It was June of 1993. Went to a revival where my best friend was at, and that's where I got saved. And I really hadn't thought of church up until about that point. And then we moved to Kansas, and started to think about, man, I've always had a heart for people. I always kind of wanted to look out for people. I really, maybe let me look at this. And then we went to a couple of church camps and whatnot. And of course, you feel the Holy Spirit move you, and you want to preach, and you want to do God's work, and you want to be used by the Holy Spirit. And you hear all the church songs. Third Day was coming out at the time. DC Talk was big at the time. Jars of Clay was at the time. Loved those bands. I still do. They're good music. They're on my phone. Listen to the music. It's good stuff, I think. Just because you're an atheist doesn't mean you turn your back on decent music. But one of the things that I thought as a Christian back then was, my perspective was a lot different. My dad was a truck driver. He had been 20 years in the military, but we moved to Kansas when he retired. And after about a year or so, he became a truck driver, and he would be gone for about 4 weeks, I believe it was, 4 to 6 weeks. Then he would come home for a weekend or so. And instead of spending time with him, my mother and I would be gone to church. Now, at the time, I thought, man, we need to get him more heavily involved. He needs to be a man of God. And eventually, my parents divorced, because you can only take so much crazy before you're about to pull it. You know, so at the time, I thought, man, this is really messed up. My dad needs to find God. But as I started pulling away from religion and starting to see the harms of what other Christians were doing, and seeing just the evilness that religion does and how it corrupts people, I started seeing the corruptness in my own heart. And I started doing a lot of self-evaluations. And again, doing that, a lot of soul searching and finding the true answers, historically and whatnot. Um, it's just the guilt that I found of how I treated my father. That really frustrated me. And the fact that my mother couldn't overcome that, and the fact that she still can't, you know, it's just one of those things where it's like God, you know, it's that's not how you treat people. The dude was gone for 4 to 6 weeks. We should have spent time with him. That's what you do. Could you imagine being in his shoes? You're alone. You come home and your family doesn't want to spend time with you. Who does that? For me, I was a terrible person. My heart was in the right place, but my mind certainly wasn't. I thought it was, but it wasn't. And I've lost friends who were religious who thought they were doing the right thing, but it's one of those things where it's like religion corrupts. So my state of mind for when I was religious is just it's terrible. you know so
Excuse me. Yeah, I grew up in a very heavily Christian home, so it was it's been ingrained in me since I was very young. Um, and it's kind of odd to see people that weren't ingrained with it early on, and then they get into it later on, and um, it has such a divisive effect. I mean, it really does. It draws you away from others, and sort of creates a barrier between you and other people, because if they're not going to share your faith, then it's hard to share a friendship.
well,
And it
yeah, and that's the
yeah.
thing. You tend to look at people, and you somewhat pity them because you look at them and you see them as your soul is going to spend an eternity in a lake of fire if I can't save you, if I can't lead you to Christ, and that's a terrible way to look at someone. Now I look at someone and I'm like, I adore people. You're in my conversation. You and I spent, I think, what, 45 minutes on the phone. Dude, I felt like I knew you for years. I love talking to you. You're awesome, dude. I mean, I've met so many cool cats online, and I'm just like, man, this is awesome. I mean, we just had a convention, my group, the Promenade. It's been online for almost 5 years, and we just had our first convention at a studio that I film at, Starbase Studios, and we had, I think it was like 200 or 300 people down there, and it was just like it was a good time. And I didn't pity any one of those people, but it's like if I had that religious frame of mind, I'd been looking at each one of those people, going, "Oh, I got to save each one of you. I've got to get them out of I got to get them out of the flames." You know, it's just it's one of those things where it's like it's a trap, man. You don't realize it, but it's a trap. When I was studying to be a pastor, I was so I was so depressed and I didn't realize it, because I was so focused on the wrong things instead of focused on the here and now and focused on what can I do to make my life better. I was so focused on, ignoring that girl that would have made me happy, or focused on the friendships that I could really help people with, or, you know, and it's like, just because you're an atheist doesn't mean you're a bad person. It's like, look at my morals. I still have the same basic morals I had when I was a Christian. I don't drink because I've seen what it does to people who do drink, and abuse their body. I don't smoke because lighting a flame less than 2 inches from my face doesn't really appeal to me. I'm pretty clumsy. It's just, I don't kill people. I mean, it's just, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm basically the same as them, but yet because that one thing of, I don't believe in God, I'm such a terrible person. And it's just, that's such a ridiculous idea. And it's like, when are you going to climb out of your hole that you've dug yourself into and realize that we're all on the same level field? It's a trap, you know, such a
Yeah,
trap.
definitely. I totally agree there. I've I've had too many interactions with folks that's just shown how divisive religion can be, and it goes beyond religion to some degree. It goes into a lot of different ideologies. I mean, people can be that same way as atheists and just be so put off by religion that they refuse to interact with religious people or anything. And like you said, you still enjoy some of those bands, that are Christian bands, and some people will just be like, oh, they're a Christian band, I'm never going to listen to that again. It's like, come on, man, you've just went 180 degrees, and now you're trucking off in the exact opposite direction, but with the same mindset. Um, so I think that's one of those things that we have to tackle as atheists too, to make sure that we're not too myopic in our scope of vision of how we deal with people and how we deal with ideas in our life. We can't let atheism also become the new guiding ideology for us that trumps all other all other aspects of our life. So, and that's one of the reasons I really wanted to talk to you about this, because that's sort of what the point that I got from the conversation with your mother, and what you were trying to explain to her is that it's not just about this. You can't be myopic in your scope of vision and say I'm just a piece of shit because I don't agree with you on this one thing.
Well, it's like
But
the
it's terrible.
the
It's
thing
it's
was.
just it's terrible. Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
Well, it's like the thing is, the last thing I said to her when I said, you're so heavenly minded that you know, pardon me, I'm getting a little flustered here. Um, when I said that you're so heavenly minded, you're of no earthly value. That was something that I used to say when I would get up and do devotions in church. It's one of those things where, that wasn't a slight at her. It was also at myself. Because I've been down that road. We all have that tendency to be that way when we're focused on the wrong things. And like you're saying, um, atheists can be the same way. When we're extreme, when we have an agenda and we get up and we beat that dead horse, it's like we can push and push and push and push, and then people are like, oh God, shut up, man. Like nobody wants to hear it anymore. And it's like, you know, anything you believe should be precision. It's like a scalpel. It's not a club you beat someone on the head with. And it's like if we were to just be people, instead of, a label, and it's like, again, yeah, I'm an atheist, but I'm not Vance the atheist. I'm not Vance the Star Trek fan. I'm Vance the person. Anyone that comes up to me, regardless of what you believe, and says, hey man, all right, well, what do you need? And that's anybody. You need me to buy you lunch? I got you covered, man, no problem. You need a ride to work? All right, I got you covered, man. I've never turned anybody away if I felt that their heart was in the right place. Now, if I feel like you're going to screw me out of something, all right, well, screw you, man. I'm not putting up with that crap. But it's like if I feel like you're a decent person, all right, no problem. I got your back. Well, that's anybody, regardless of what race, sex, creed. It's just whatever, man. I got you. And it's like I wish more people would be like that. Like I try to put out, what I put out. I just wish people would be more like-minded of what they want. And it's
Mhm.
like religion just divides, and I hate that. I really, really hate that. And it's like with my mom, if she were to call me right now and be like, "Hey, let's fix this," all right, no problem. Don't talk to me like that. Let's not discuss that one aspect, and we're good. Like, no problem. My wife and I, we want to have kids soon. We've been trying for like 2 years. Um, and it really sucks, that she may never meet her grandchild just because you chose to close the door. But I mean, she's got my number. One time, she texted me after this, and it was, do you remember the song Pastor started Sunday school with? I sent her what the title was. I think it was Bringing in the Sheaves or Dancing in the Sheaves or something like that. And she never responded. No, thank you. No, appreciate it. No, you know, thanks for the reply, fatty. Nothing, just nothing. And it's one of those things where it's like, what is this? Like, this is not the relationship between a mother and son. So it's just like, you choose to keep the door closed, whatever. It's just sad because it's like there's so many people out there who have the same relationship. And it's just, it's sad. I don't want the relationship with my kid like that. Whatever they choose to be, whether they're gay, straight, religious, non-religious, Star Wars fan, whatever. I'll love them for whoever they are. So
So, when we posted for this event in the Facebook main public page, um, we had some decent responses from a lot of really nice atheists that said a lot of really encouraging things, and also when we posted the event, made an event page for it, we had some decent responses, some nice things from atheists said. But we also got a lot of very very hateful things. There was one response we got on the main page that said this guy talks about religion and says bad things about religion and fuck this dude and kill him. And it's just like, man, come on, guys. This is what he's talking. This is why this is happening. This is happening because too many people have that perspective. This guy
So,
doesn't like religion, so fuck him. He can die. And
so
it's like,
basically,
come on, people.
so basically, what you're saying is I'm not going to be inviting this guy over for dinner. So, all right, I got you. I got
Well, you see, and you're the type of person you would invite them over for dinner. Maybe not if they directly said, "I'm going to kill you if
you.
you
Right,
do," but I mean,
right.
just because they don't like you, that doesn't necessarily mean you're not. You're a good person, and even seeing you interact with some of these people on the event page that were kind of hateful, you were very nice and polite to them, and you were just trying to say, "Look, this is just one little thing, and it shouldn't be causing so much anger and hatred between us." That's why this is so important. It's like you said, you want people to know that they're not alone out there, and you want people to hear your story because it means something, because other people have gone through it and are going through it right now, and other people will go through it. I mean, if you lose your religion, you may lose family, you may lose friends. So it's an important thing, and I'm really glad that you took the time to do this with us.
Well, it's like here's the thing. If you rewind the clock back about a year before the message with my mom, I had lost my best friend, and she was extremely religious, um, and that really crushed me. But I that was at one point where I was almost the extreme atheist in that regard. Um, extremely bitter. Just I was almost I became almost exactly what I hated. Um, and almost lost myself in the whole thing. And I kind of just, eventually mellowed and was just like, no, I don't want to go down that road because, I don't want to be bitter. I don't want to be angry. So then, get to the point where it's, where, my mom says that stuff. And, I had already chosen kind of where I wanted to be and was like, no, I'm not going to be bitter. I'm not going to be angry. Um, and fast forward to where I'm at now, um, in 2 years' time, I'm making films. I have a book cover that's done, um, that I've drawn the cover for. Um, I'm an executive producer on 4 fan films. I'm an actor in a film. I just got done hosting a convention last week that, like I said, had 200 to 300 people. Um, it's one of those things where it's like just because those few people don't want to be in my life, that's okay. I'm not angry at my old best friend. I'm not angry at my mother. I'm not bitter at those people. They're at where they chose to be in their life, and I wish them well. I really do. To with some people who've chose to leave my life, some I'll welcome back with open arms because they chose not to burn bridges. With other people, it's like, no, you burned a bridge, and I can't let you back in my life for certain reasons. It's where they chose to be. Because again, you've got to draw a circle around yourself and say, I can't let you cross lines. Once you cross a certain line, I can't let you back in that because now I'm destroying myself if I do. It's that fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me mentality to have. Um, and so it's one of those things where it's like in 2 years' time, and again, it's not, hey, look at me, I'm such a great guy. It's just, anybody could do what I do if you're determined enough and you believe in yourself. But in 2 years' time, I'm doing the things that I want to do. Like I said, my wife and I are planning for a family. We're looking to buy a house. We're happy with our lives. So for anybody to sit there and say, my life doesn't measure up, yeah, screw off. And those people out there online that say, anything about me, one aspect of my life, if that. You don't see the complete story. And for you to have an opinion based on that, based on spelling or grammar or whatever, you're welcome to that opinion. Your opinion is as irrelevant to me as my mother's. So,
So, yeah, it seems like since you let go of religion, you seem to be a little more able to focus on aspects of just living and enjoying life and stuff. Do you think have you come to find that that's sort of a common thing? I know I have with a lot of atheists. We tend to become a lot more productive in our lives, and because we're not focused on this one thing of how do I get to heaven, we start focusing on what can I do in my life to make my life a better thing for me to enjoy, and what can I do to help other people and make their lives better. So have you seen that? Have you experienced that a lot with your atheist friends or atheists that you know?
Well, you start when you start looking at the entire picture and you start seeing things for what they are. Like when I was younger, I'm bipolar, so my emotions go from angry to sad to happy go lucky, for no reason. And so now I look at things and I kind of stand back and I'm like, am I really sad, or is this just my brain being crazy? um, because brain's just wired a little different, and that's fine. People are like that. Some people need to take meds. Some people do counseling. Everybody's wired just a little bit differently. The fact that I don't have religion sitting there hammering, pray, pray a little more. I can look at that and say, what suits my particular needs, and the fact that I do deal with people who have these same issues, and I can point them in the right direction and say, hey, what exactly is your problem? Okay, now we can deal with that, and let's get you the proper help that you need. Whereas when I was younger, I needed to see the doctor. My mother never got me the help. Her problem, or I mean, her reasoning was always pray about it. And then I would ask pastor, and pastor would be like, pray about it. And when I would pray about it and it didn't work, he would say, pray harder. Um, that's negligence. And so I would never do that to anybody. But so, yeah, when you remove those blinders of religion that religion puts on you, you can look at the world for what it is instead of what you want it to be. And yeah, sometimes that's a little depressing because I want to believe in a God. I want to believe there's something more. And as I watched an episode of Cosmos that explained it perfectly, that put the age of the universe in a calendar year, from January 1st to December 31st. And the age of the human race is like the last 15 seconds on December 31st. So when I look at the entire, when I look at everything and I'm like, man, do we have it all figured out? No, we don't. But when I look at religion, I'm like, you certainly don't have all the answers. And I'm not going to sit there and pretend that you do. But I can certainly look at things and say, I certainly have some things figured out, even though religion isn't one of them. That doesn't answer anything. So yeah, I mean, I would certainly say I'm a lot happier with everything that I've removed those blinders off. Um, yeah, I'm happier.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I totally agree about that. I feel a lot more productive and happy as an individual without, like you said, without those blinders on. But because it does make you very very narrow sighted, very one track minded. Um, so this this experience hasn't actually been all good for you though. Like I said, you've had a lot of nasty comments just from where we shared your event and everything and told people about this. But what are some of the worst responses you got to sharing that screenshot yourself? What's some of the worst things that people have said to you over that?
Uh, one person told me, one person sent me a picture of flames, told me go to hell. I told him prove there is one, and then I blocked him. Usually I don't respond to anything. I read the message, I kind of giggle to myself, and then I block them. Because it's one of those things where you can't really feed the trolls. I don't believe in feeding them. It's a simple matter of scroll over, click block, go on about your day. Because again, people are entitled to their opinion. Um, if anybody were to ever take physical action against me or something like a rock through the window or something, okay, now police get involved, and that's something more than just Facebook. Anything outside of a Facebook message, well, that's harassment. I mean, technically, you can get to it and say, well, it's harassment anyway, but it is what it is. People are entitled to their opinion. They're going to say what they're going to say. They're going to think what they're going to think. It boils down to two words: fuck them. If they support you, great. If not, fuck them. I mean, life's too short. I look at the people who are in my life, my wife, my friends, the people who I have helped, the people who know me personally, the people who do watch my page, who do see the things I do post, the people who do follow me, and those people matter. Not saying I live and die by those people, but if you want to see what I'm all about, come check me out. again, if you're not focused on that one little minuscule aspect, you know, then you'll find out that there's a real person there. You know, if you're not, if you're only interested in the spelling and grammar and, you know, then come find out what I'm all about. If you're not, well, then why do I care about your opinion? You know, and I'm not going to give you the time of day, you know, so I'm not really interested in any of that. You know, I'm not out to prove anything. You know, the positive is far outweighed the negatives. So,
That's a very great attitude to have. I know dealing with the page and the sort of things that I deal with my blog. It's sometimes it's hard not to want to jump in there and feed the trolls and just battle back with them. So I have to commend you on keeping a level head with it, because it's certainly not easy all the time, especially when um, you know, we think of Facebook as just this sort of thing that we do, but it honestly, it's how we interact with other individuals. It's how we make friends. Those it's a part of our lives, and some of the things that people say on there can really hurt us emotionally. Some of the things that people say on there can be just devastating, and it's
yeah,
terrible to see that people will take that one thing and that one aspect of your life and just try and run you down as a human being over that one thing. And it's weird for me because when I see a lot of religious people, that one thing, that one aspect of them being religious actually has so much more bearing on their lives than it does for me as an atheist. Like, yeah, being an atheist is just one minuscule aspect of my life, but for so many religious people, like, their religion is who they are according to them, and they don't see themselves as being anything more than that one thing. So when you sort of attack that one thing, or you say anything against that one thing, it's like you've personally attacked them, like you personally just reached up and slapped them in the face.
yeah,
So it's a very different atmosphere for me when I deal with atheists versus dealing with religious people, because so many of us really understand that it's just one little aspect of our lives, and we don't make our lives revolve around that one thing. Have you noticed that yourself? Do you notice a lot of religious people that it makes up more of their life than what it does for us as atheists?
well, there was an incident that happened probably about 2 months before well, probably about maybe a month ago, and it had to do with um, one of the booths that were supposed to be at the Promenadicon. We had been probably about maybe a year ago, 6 months to a year ago. I'm bad with time, so forgive me if my dates are a little off. Um, Working 60 to 72 hours a week, like your time, you know, like time blurs. But he was a hardcore Christian, and he would always come onto my page, and he would always, you know, kind of personally attack people. And that's one thing where it's like, even if you're an atheist, if you personally attack, I don't put up with that shit. And I'll boot you off quicker than anything. You know, even if you're on my side, it's like I don't like that. I don't stand for it. So I unfriended the guy, and you know he was a hardcore Christian. He would always, you know, spout off to people like they were ignorant, even though he wouldn't present facts. And he would just talk to people like, "This is common sense," and it's like, "Well, dude, you're not backing up anything. This isn't fun." Um, but he had a Star Trek project that he was working on, and I, against my better judgment, I unblocked him and messaged the page. And I said, "Hey, I see you're doing a Star Trek project. You know, I do a lot of networking. Why don't we put this religious aspect aside? And I would love to invite you down to my Promenadicon. Why don't you come down? We can, you know, I'd love to give you a booth because I've got tons of booths down here with other groups. Why don't you come down?" He was like, "You know what? Let's do that." And so I was like, "Awesome." You know, so in my head, I'm thinking everything's cool. We're good to go. So I sent him a friend request because, you know, when I do ads for pages, Facebook pages, you know, I tag them usually in it, so they know, hey, this guy's hooking me up. Um, so I did that, sent him a friend request. He accepted. You know, again, everything's peachy keen, hunky dory. Got him an ad for page. He was only at like, I think it was 170 something, not very big. Page was just starting off. Boosted him up to about 500. A couple days later, he sent me a message. Hey, how did you do that? I'm like, well, dude, I have almost 5,000 friends. I reach a lot of people. I have over 100,000 people on all the different fan pages I run. I reach people. So, you're welcome. He's like, can you do it again? I'm like, yeah, give me a couple of weeks. I'd love to do it. Like, let's get something more for the, my convention. Like, let's get some ads up for it. But, yeah, let's do that. Okay. Well, I post some atheist stuff on my page. Didn't tag him in anything, didn't bring him into the conversation, didn't include him in any way, just posted my stuff. And here he comes trotting along. I don't like you posting this stuff. God, dude, really? You know. So I message him. I'm like, hey, man, I'm not going to stop posting what I post. This is my page to express my views. You're welcome to join, but a couple days later, he messages me, I'm going to have to unfollow your page. Hey, that's fine. Unfollow. If you want to unfriend me, that's fine, but you can unfollow, unfriend, or just ignore. I personally ignore a lot. I don't look at anyone's page. I just post my stuff and I go on about my day. But do what you have to do. No harm, no foul. I'm fine with that. So he says, I'm just going to unfollow you and everything's fine. Okay, that's fine. Well, 2 weeks later, he messages me, we're not coming to your convention. Well, why, dude? I've already advertised for your page and I've advertised for you being at my convention. He's like, well, I'm not doing it. Well, dude, that's really unprofessional. I mean, no offense, you're kind of doing it at the 11th hour, and that's kind of a dick move to make. Like, what the hell is that? But I don't say anything because I hate drama. It's just like, okay, that's fine. So I go to his main page to click on like because if you're going to do something like this, I'm not going to support your page. I won't publicly bash you, but I'm not going to support you. So I go to his page and I see that he's thrown me under the bus, and I'm like, what the hell is this? He's thrown me under the bus and my convention under the bus for bashing religious people and making Star Trek films to bash religion, and I'm like, what? Like, how am I making Star Trek films to bash religion? Like, the whole thing was just ridiculous. And so, a lot since I had gotten I'd say I'd gotten about half of his people. Half of his people that were on his page were people that I had brought from my ads. And so they started asking questions. Well, who are you talking about? What convention are you talking about? And at this point, I had gotten about 4 or 5 messages in my inbox. Hey, this guy's throwing you under the bus. And I'm like, man, that's great. I never responded to it because that's like, whatever, I'm just, it's fine, whatever. Needless to say, all those people that I brought to his page, let him have an earful, and the next morning that post was taken down. I don't know whether it was him or one of his other admins, but it's one of those things where it's like, you really should be careful who you throw under the bus and who you work with and what your religion does to you. Because for someone who says he's trying to bring religion into Star Trek and whatnot, like you're doing the same thing to yourself with your page by doing stuff like that. It's like, stop deluding yourself with your religion. Just be an honest, open person. And if you don't like something, just avoid it. For me, if I unfollow someone's page, like, first off, if you unfollowed my page 2 weeks ago, why are you mad now? It's like, you should stop coming to my page if you unfollowed it 2 weeks ago, and that dude just made no sense. And a lot of religious people do that. They wear a chip on their shoulder, waiting for someone to just come and knock it off. And then when you do something that's kind of questionable in their eyes, they have a reason to be mad. For me, I'm not looking to make anyone mad. I want to live my life. You live yours. Just don't piss anyone off. Just leave them alone, So, I mean, I hope that answered your question. I went down some rabbit
Yeah.
trails there.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, it's kind of weird for me because being a sci-fi fan myself and a fan of Star Trek and Star Wars, of course, and it, one of those things about Star Trek that always kind of impressed me was like religion isn't a thing there. Like religion almost never comes up in Star Trek, and then I got to, getting to know more about Gene Roddenberry and who he was and stuff, and sort of the ideas that he held on to, and then put into his son Magel's head. It's like, okay, yeah, this dude seems like a really cool dude. So then you see these ultra religious people that are involved in this, and it's like, I don't know how you got here because you're kind of missing the point of some of what Magell was or Gene was trying to put out in Magell too. With what they do with Started, it's about making connections with people and creating friendships and a meaningful connection with people. And it's weird to see those people in the sci-fi community because you don't see it as much as you do in the rest of the world. Even with religious people there, they tend to be, this is just one little thing over here, but I'm a fanboy for Star Trek, so whatever.
Well, it's like the thing, I think, and I completely agree with you. Religion's not really brought up in Star Trek all that much, but in Deep Space Nine, the Bajorans, religion and politics are really brought up, heavily in that show. And Deep Space Nine was probably my favorite show, even though at first the religious aspect really turned me off. But I think that was I think that was a way the show it did religion right, where it didn't really answer a lot of questions, but it kind of left a lot up to the audience, and I think you know I think it was done respectfully, because all the Starfleet officers, again, they didn't believe any of the stuff, but the Bajorans did. There were scientific reasons for certain things, but then you could also look at it from, spiritual reasons for the Bajorans. And that's kind of the way I stand back and I look at some things. It's like I have no problem with someone who is of faith, if that's what they choose to believe. I can look at it and say, I don't share that, but if you do, I have respect for that belief. As long as you're not out there harming someone else, then I have no problem with that. Again, I have plenty of friends. We all have friends who have some type of faith that we don't share. But it's when you overstep that boundary and try to force that upon someone else with with your lifestyle, or it's just you can't do that to other people, and it's just we can't lose that common respect for other people, and it's just I think Deep Space Nine got that right, and it's like you're absolutely right with the way Gene Roddenberry, like, he didn't like religion at all, but he did have respect. And I think if we had respect for other people and if we kept that in mind, where diversity is a good thing, we can have religion, we can have, different views of politics, diversity is a great thing, but you can't treat people with disrespect. You can't treat people with that hatred. Again, it's that whole thing of character. Keep your character good, and everything else doesn't matter. So it really just boils down to character. Just be someone of good character. As long as you can look in the mirror, then that's great. You know. So
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, so we're approaching almost the 1 hour mark. We got about 15 minutes left before we've
okay.
gone about an hour, and I don't want to drag this on too long for anybody out there. But I would like to ask you if your mom was watching this right now, what's the one thing that you would just like to say to her and let her know, um, and just to lay it out there, because I know you don't have a lot of time and space to do things on Facebook, and then it's hard to actually do to get your point across. So if you had the chance to just say um, one thing to her, what would that be?
That I love her unconditionally. I love her. And that's it.
You see, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing because even after her attitude and everything that's there, you understand that that's a person with flaws, and you can still care about her. That's very cool, and it's very enlightening to see that aspect from you. Whereas we can almost be assured that same sentiment is not shared by her. So it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing that you've gone through here with her. Um, but the upside is you have helped a lot of people. You have reached a lot of people. You have put your story out there for a lot of people. And yeah, there have been some that are like, "Oh, this is fake and whatnot." But a lot of these people have seen that and said, they didn't even realize that could happen. Even religious people have seen that and said, well, that doesn't happen, And then in talking to you and understanding what actually took place, it's like, wow, that happens. That happens to people. People go through this, and it's great that you're there and wanting to reach out to people and make a connection and say, you're not alone in this. This happens every day. A lot of people look at like shunning and uh, the sorts of things that go on in the Islamic community, where people are put to death for leaving Islam sometimes, and it just it's not just an Islamic thing, and it's not the apostasy thing. There are apostates in Christianity too, and there's shunning that goes on there, and it kind of happens in every religion, and it's one of those things that needs more attention. So that's why it's wonderful that we're doing this and we're having this chance for you to speak and let people know who you are and to let them know that they're not alone out there. So
Yeah, that's the thing. I sincerely, I know religion will always be, regardless of whether it's Christianity or Muslim or Buddhist or whatever. Religion's always going to exist in some fashion. We're gonna, if humans exist, to go to Mars and whatnot, and we finally reach the stars. A new type of religion will come around and whatnot. We're adaptive, if anything. Um, but something else will pop up, and we'll always have religion in some form. What I would like to think is that we'll eventually come to the point where we'll see it for, we won't condemn other people for not sharing what we need for our own spirituality, because I tell you, there are times where, I do feel connected to certain things, like when my wife's sleeping and, the sun hits her just right and she just looks so angelic, and just I love her more than anything, and I feel connected, and to me that's as close to spirituality as I can say, and just the thought of bringing a child into this world, you know, uh, I boy or girl doesn't matter at that moment. I just I've got goosebumps right now just thinking about it. At that point, I know that I will feel a sense of spiritual just and I can't describe it even now. Just I just imagine it. And so I know that we're always going to have that sense of spirituality to us. I don't feel that we're going to always have the need to label it though. And I look forward to the day where we can step beyond that and say, okay, we're ready to put on our big boy pants and grow up. Um, I don't think you and I will live to see that, but I think hopefully, that's the future that I work toward. And when I do have kids, that's what I want my kids to build, whatever their future is, because there's so many good people out there. And that's what I want to expose my kids to, those good people out there, and whatever future they have, I want it to be a good one, not one where we regress back to the dark ages, where we're believing in Bronze Age mythology and scare tactics to better ourselves. Like I want them to better themselves for their kids and then their kids, and that we have a future for everybody, so that the world of Star Trek or Star Wars or whatever, like we have something to where we're not just limited to this rock that's floating around the sun, that we have something out there where we're like, look at us, we're something now. I look forward to where we go. So, we can all look back at this and be like, we were so silly, because ultimately that's what it is.
yeah, I can I can totally relate to you on that. I have two boys of my own, and they having my children made me want to be a better person. I had to be introspective and look at myself and ask myself if I was an example that I wanted them to follow. Um, and I think that more people need to do that. I don't I don't know that necessarily your mom is giving a good example for the type of person that you would want to be. And I think that you're able to see that and distance yourself from it and say, that's not the example I'm going to follow. It's just not. Whether you are an atheist or you were religious or not, that's just not the example that you want to follow, or that you want your kids to follow. So it's kind of heartbreaking that you may have children and she may not get to experience their lives, but I have a feeling she may come around when you do have some children. I know my family did. They distanced themselves very greatly from me when I came out as an atheist. And once I had children, it was one of those, oh, well, let's just stop talking about that. And I want to be a part of my grandkids' lives. And I'm like, well, you can. Uh, just I'm not going to deal with you indoctrinating them. They don't get to go to church with you and stuff like that. We're not going down that route, but you can definitely have a relationship with them. Just try to be an example that they can look up to. So
Yeah.
I wish you all the best with having a baby and getting your life going. I think you're doing really great, man. I think it's going to go really great for you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man. Really appreciate it, man.
All right, folks. We've about reached a full hour here, maybe a little over, and I don't want to keep anybody too long. This video will be shared on YouTube for anyone who did not get to see it live. You can visit our YouTube channel and watch the video. We'll have some links there. I'll link to Vance's page. Unfortunately, he has reached his limit on friends. So you can't send him a friend request, but you can always follow him and see what he's got going on, see what he's talking about. If you're a Star Trek fan, especially, check Vance out and the movies that he's doing, the work he's doing on that aspect of his life. Very cool stuff. Um, Thank you to everyone who did watch this video, who joined us today. We had a few viewers on here, so that's very nice. Very nice to have some people viewing us. And I'm sure that more people will come back and watch this on YouTube. Um, I'll share some links to Atheist Republic. As most of you who deal with Atheist Republic know, we are a nonprofit organization, and it's not free to do all these things that we do. So if you'd like to donate and contribute to Atheist Republic, we would love to have a little bit of your time or money. If you don't have money, that's fine. We would love to have your time. We are always looking for more volunteers. If you'd like to blog with us, work as a journalist, work in the publication division, we publish books. So if you've got a book that you'd like to put out there, come talk to us. We can try to make that happen for you. Um, we've been talking to Vance Major, and we appreciate all of our viewers. We appreciate your time. This is Casper Rigsby from Atheist Republic signing off. Thank you.